Okay, we're going to finish 2.5 today. So we looked at quadratic equations like this: x squared plus 6x minus, what would it be, 16. And the goal is to split this apart into the two binomials that were used to multiply and create the equation to begin with. So the way we do this is we draw the box, we put the first one here, and then we put the last one here, and then we multiply those together. And I get negative 16x squared, and then we do the factor challenge. Two numbers that multiply to be negative 16 and add to be 6x. So my options are 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3 doesn't work, 4 and 4. Good job. And because it's an x squared, it's actually going to be negative 2x and 8x. That's the only difference between this and the factor challenge. So we put one of these in one of the remaining squares, and it doesn't matter which one we stick it in. So I'm going to put in negative 2x and 8x. And then we look at the top row. What does the top row have in common? What can we factor out? X. And then x times what is x squared? X. And then x times what is negative 2x? Negative 2. And then x times what is 8x? 8. So my answers are x minus 2 and x plus 8. That is a review of the first half of 2.5. Okay? Now, this equation is called a quadratic because it has an x squared, and squares have 4 sides. So it's a quadratic equation. When you graph a quadratic equation, you get this U shape, or sometimes it's a sad U. And those are called parabolas. Okay? And if you take a quadratic equation and you split it into these two binomials, these are called factors. Just like these are factors. 1 times 16 is 16. 2 times 8 is 16. Okay? So on the first part of 2.5, all it said was factor. Okay? And those factors were the answers. Today, it will say solve for the roots. And if I were to graph this quadratic equation, it would look something like this. And I want to know, where does the graph hit the x-axis? Well, it's really easy to solve. It's what we did back in 2.4. We just set these equal to 0. Right? Do you remember that from 2.4? So we add 2, and we get x equals 2. And we subtract 8, and I get x equals negative 8. And that is the difference between the first half of 2.5 and the second half. Okay, so let's review a couple other things. What if I had 2x squared minus 6x? Can I pull anything out of that? What? An x and a 2. So I'm going to yank out a 2x. And if I do that, what's left? X. So this is really 2 times x times x. And I pulled out a 2x, so I'm left with x. And this is really negative 2 times 3 times x. And I took out the 2 and the x. What's left? The 3 and the negative. So these are called factors. If the problem says factor, then you're done. If the problem says solve or find the roots, let me Let me check to see what they actually say. Okay, 2.5. So the first set says factor, and then the second set says solve. So when it's solve, it will say equals 0. And if I want to solve this, I write equals 0 for each of the x's. Well, 2 times x equals 0 gives me x equal to 0. And x minus 3 equals 0. You add the 3, and you get x equals 3. Okay? All right, let's try this one. So, can I pull anything out? Nope. And it's an x squared, so we're going to use the box. Put the x squared in the first one. Put the 20 in the last one. Multiply those together. 20x squared. Now, you might be able to do this in your head without multiplying them together, but on this assignment, you have to multiply them, because in the next assignment, the only way to solve it is to multiply. There's no way to do it in your head, at least not an easy way. It's really difficult to do in your head. So, I'm looking for the factors of 20 that add to be negative 12. Can you think of any? So the factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't work, 4 and 5. Can we use one of those sets to create a negative 12? Yes. What would it be? Negative 2x and negative 10x. And don't forget the x's. Negative 2x and negative 10x. Then we look at the top row. What does the top row share? An x. So we pull out an x, and then what do we stick up on top? X, because x times x is x squared. What goes above the 2x? Negative 2. And then x times what is negative 10x? Negative 10. And a nice way to see if you got it correct is just to check, is negative 10 times negative 2 20? Yes. And if that works, then you did it correctly. So the factors are x minus 2 and x minus 10. If the problem says factor, you're done. But the later problems say solve, and they have an equals 0 on the end, which means I need to put equals 0 on both of those, and then I add 2, and I get x equals 2, and I add 10, and I get x equals 10. So you can either write x equals 2 and x equals 10, or you could just write x equals 2 and 10. You guys kind of getting this? Do you need to see another one? Okay. Draw the box. I get x squared and 56. What's the next step? Multiply those together. 56x squared. Then I write down all the factors. 1 and 56, 2 and 23, 4 and 14, 5 and 6 don't work. So 7 and 8. Will that work? Yeah, will 7x and 8x work? Yeah, this one doesn't work because the 56 is positive. So it's either 7 and 8 or negative 7 and negative 8, and neither one of those work. 7 and negative 8 won't work because they create a negative 56. So this one would be called prime. Now I did that on purpose just to show you need to be a little bit careful. But if this was a negative, then you guys are right, 7x and negative 8x. So negative 8x and 7x. I'm going to pull out an x, which gives me x minus 8, and then plus 7. So my factors are x plus 7 and x minus 8. If it said solve, what would the answers be? Negative 7 and positive 8. Yep. Okay. You guys handle the rest of 2.5? Okay. Yeah. So 3, so it's 2.5, 3 through 23 odd. Did anybody write down the rest of it? And then 27 to 30, 39 odd. So here is the problem set.